From the times of the ancient Egyptians to modern day, humans have seen the need to measure and divide up their lands. Whether it be for cataloging and taxing crops in ancient Egypt, building the aqueducts and Colosseum in ancient Rome, or to divide and settle new land in the United States after we gained independence from England. Humanity has used the surveyor to accurately map out and build the world around them. The footsteps and innovation that these past surveyors have set forth have made it so that today we can accurately measure and map and engineer our infrastructure, settle land disputes, and catalog our resources so that we can build a better tomorrow. Advancements in how we map the world around us has quickly changed over the course of the past 200 years. From simply using a tree line or river, it was enough to divide the land, to having a system that accurately and concisely differentiates allocate areas and catalogs every division. The same fundamentals of surveying have not changed, but the technology has and is still advancing today. Indiana was one of the first states to have the beginnings of this system of what modern-day surveyors use every day in their work. Surveying fundamentals can be dated back as far as the ancient Egyptians. The use of celestial bodies was used as references to align the infrastructure like the Pyramid of Giza in a near-perfect north-south direction. The use of ropes with knots tied at specific increments was used to measure agricultural fields for taxation of the farmers along the Nile River. These Egyptians were known as rope stretchers because they would go out into the agricultural fields after the Nile flooded them and re-establish field lines and boundaries. Their methods carried throughout their history into Greeks and Romans many years later. The Greeks traveled to Egypt to learn these methods of mathematic division. They had influenced great thinkers such as Aristotle, Plato, and Archimedes to make the city of Alexandria a center of science, surveying, and related endeavors. Later, the Romans established being a land surveyor as an official profession. Surveyors in Rome were part of the building of the Roman roads, the Colosseum, and many more architectural marvels. Over time, these practices and honing of these skills led to our ancestors to the United States to move westward, creating what we now know as modern surveying. From the beginning of the United States, settlers have been trying to map out and divide the land for the use of the people. Prominent figures such as George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and many past original settlers have seen the need to catalog and map new lands westward of the United States. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, people such as Edward Tiffin saw the need to have a system of surveying that wasn't as chaotic and ultimately unreliable. Meets and bounds procedures were used, and those landmarks such as trees, mounds of dirt and rocks, or rivers can change over time. Trees burn down or die, mounds of dirt and rocks move or erode, and rivers change their course. These natural elements cannot be reliable over time, so in 1815, Edward Tiffin came up with what we now use as the basis for our public land system or rectangular system. In Indiana, this system was implemented. The initial point was established along the first principal meridian and baseline. These lines and point were the beginning of the rectangular system in the state. Tiffin standardized how the perpetuation of monuments along the northern and western township lines were to be set and what was needed in the field books of these surveyors. Plats or maps of the area were to have standardization and catalog with specific instructions of how they were to be created. With that basis, deputy surveyors moved all over the state of Indiana. Eventually, in midsummer and early fall of 1820, a deputy surveyor by the name of John Hendricks started surveying in what would eventually become Johnson County. Hendricks started in what is the 36th section of Township 13, Range 4 East, by using the Gunter's chain and Rittenhouse compass along with the survey party. They ran lines to divide up the township, and eventually they made their way towards Section 20 and established section corner posts and quarter corner posts along the section lines. Field books were used and notated in about the topography and fauna in the area. Many trees, lakes, ponds, creeks were all notated in these field books. The creek near where I live is notated in these books. This divided the land to be sold to the public from the federal government to settle and use for whatever the landowner saw fit to do with it. The system and mapping that was used is still in use today. Modern surveyors use these original monumentation as the basis for new infrastructure and land sales. The footsteps that modern surveyors take must follow the original surveyors' footsteps in how they find and perpetuate these monuments. The use of notes is critical when trying to find these monuments. We no longer have to use a Gunter's chain or a Rittenhouse compass, but instead, surveying has moved towards electronic means. The use of total stations, GPS rovers, data collectors, electronic levels, and mobile LiDAR units can take accurate measurements down to a single millimeter and are being used at this very moment. In years to come, I expect this technology to advance far beyond what the original surveyors could have ever imagined. Technology has advanced so quickly over the past 50 years, and especially in the past 20. We have seen advancements in GPS technology, cell phones, and computers that have made surveying easier and more accurate. New advancements in LiDAR technology have eliminated some portions of a surveyor's job and shifted it into a different kind of role. The use of unmanned aerial systems or drones have made the surveying of remote and densely populated areas easier and safer to catalog what resources are there. The improvements on older technologies such as total stations that were just a laser and a telescope in the 1960s can now scan and use photogrammetry to survey an area alongside the use of conventional topographic surveys. The profession is constantly trying to improve and adapt the world around us to create a more intricate and marvelous infrastructure every day. Looking into the past is the best way to understand how we as surveyors can move forward with these new ideas.